Hi guys, it's Friday and today we're going to be looking at some folk music. And we're going to look at folk music that I was exposed to in the late 70s when I was attending a number of folk festivals in Ontario. Late 70s I was on a training course in the city of Toronto, of course, and I took a trip over to Toronto Island to go to the Mariposa Folk Festival. Now, to get there you had to catch a ferry from downtown Toronto over to the island, and they had parks. It was a great place to go for a picnic, just to spend the day, and certainly a great place for some music. And at that time, Mariposa was holding their festivals at the island. Now, the day I went was a Saturday afternoon. First person I heard when I got there was Stan Rogers. Now, some of you may be aware of Stan. He was traveling then with a trio, his brother Garnet Rogers accompanying him. And Stan's music, very folky, but also very much Eastern music, like what you have in the East Coast, the Maritimes in Canada. Now, the album that I picked up after was one that was recorded also in Toronto with a groaning board on Bay Street in Toronto. And it represented a lot of the same things that I had seen that day at Mariposa. The songs he was playing here, Witch of the Westmoreland, Barrett's Privateers, which was a mainstay in most of his concerts, Marianne Carter, Flowers of Bermuda, Rolling Down to Old Maui. These were pretty much standard in his book. And just an excellent album to get an idea of what Stan Rogers is all about. Certainly he had a number of albums out before he passed away. Now Garnet is traveling on his own, doing a lot of music as a solo performer, but back in the days, and this was, again, late 70s, this was a great group and a very unique style he had. So something to check out. So a couple of other, this was at Mariposa that I saw Stan. I'd also gone to what was called Festival for the Folks at Britannia Park in Ottawa, and saw a number of other musicians that really had an impact on me, and I went out and bought some of their material. One of the first ones was Colleen Peterson. Now, seeing her at the Folk Festival, I had actually seen her back in the early 70s, probably 1971, 72. She was traveling with a guy named Mark Haynes they called their group Spriggs and Bringle. And it was kind of a folk group, did the coffee house circuit. So she was still doing kind of that material at folk festivals. But when her first album came out, and I've got this one, Beginning to Feel Like Home, it wasn't quite what I had heard in concert. It was getting a little more country tinged. I think she was trying to branch out into country music as well as the folk style, because maybe just a larger market. Now, some of the tunes on here, a couple of great ones: Charlie Rich's Who Will the Next Fool Be? Mississippi John Hurt, Richland Woman Blues. One that was one of my favorites here, Music in Your Eyes by a writer called Willie P Bennett, who we'll talk about in a couple of minutes. Sad Songs and Waltzes by Willie Nelson. 6 Days on the Road. Brand New Tennessee Waltz by Jesse Winchester. So a lot of country tinged music. Now on her second album, which I only had on 8-track and don't have now because my card player ate it, she did a song, another one of Willie P Bennett's, called Starting Out Clean. And this is probably the first song I really remember Colleen Peterson for, and it's just an excellent one if you get a chance to hear it. Her third album, again getting more commercial, Taking My Boots Off, further away from the folk style. Songs like I Go to Pieces by Del Shannon, Sam Cooke's Cupid, Run to Her by Jerry Goffin. Still a good album, but not in the folk style. Later on, she came back, and probably her last few years of performing, she was doing quartet with Sylvia Tyson and two other ladies, so they had a whole different style. But first time I'd seen her, very folk-oriented, excellent performer, and some good material that she had chose to play. So because of her, I went out and checked out Willie P Bennett, because, I mean, she'd done a couple of his songs, and I kind of liked the tunes, but Willie P had a whole different style. Now, Willie P Bennett's another local fellow. He was living in Peterborough at the time. This is his first album, called Trying to Start Out Clean. So the same song I was talking to you about Colleen playing. Drift and Snow, White Line, Don't Blame the Blues on Me, Music in Your Eyes, the other one that Colleen Peterson had recorded. Great album, very more in the folk style, if you get a chance to hear it. And his second album was also a good one. This one was Willie P Bennett, Hobo's Taunt. And one of the standout songs on here was Lonely One Car Funerals that Stan Rogers recorded after. So we've got Colleen Peterson, Stan Rogers, both recording music by Willie P Bennett, who, until I heard them, I'd never heard of him. So somebody to take a moment, go back and take a look at some of this stuff. There's some great performers out there that they didn't get the airplay they should have. They didn't get coverage on television. But in the folk circle, in the folk festival circuit, these guys were superstars. And the last one that I saw, and I saw him in Ottawa as well, and again, really liked him. And in the late 70s, Ottawa television had a program called Cafe Hibou, a half-hour TV show based on a club they used to have in downtown Ottawa, hosted by Michael Riley. And they would bring a lot of these players on, and basically it was a showcase for them. And one of the players I saw there, and then later at the festival, was a fellow named David Whiffen. Now, David Whiffen had a hit one time, country singer recorded called More Often Than Not. Some of you may recognize the name. It was the only tune I really had heard of his, and again, he hadn't recorded it, someone else had covered it for him, until I saw him at the festival. Now, on here, Coast to Coast Fever, one of his bigger hits. He's also recording Willie P Bennett, a song called White Lines. Skybound Station by David Whiffen. A lot of nice tunes. David Whiffen put a few albums out, and then he kind of dropped from the public eye. He didn't perform much anymore. I did read that he was now driving cab in Ottawa, and I know last year at City Folk in Ottawa, they were featuring a performance that included him as well, so he's still out and going. So, a lot of great players that I found through the folk festivals: Stan Rogers, Colleen Peterson, Willie P Bennett, and David Whiffen. If you get a chance, check them out. Everybody, have a great weekend. We'll see you next Monday. Stay safe, stay home, and we'll see you on the next day.